got a project today, and the project is going to be trying to cut down an air mattress. A number of years ago, there was a fellow that put out a video on YouTube where he cut down a Neo Air. I'm going to try to cut down a different air mattress, and we're going to see how it goes. So why am I doing it? I just kind of want to have a project, number one. But I also like the short hip length air mattresses. This is an old Nemo that I have. It still works, but it's getting a little long in the tooth. It's probably had 50, 100 nights on the trail, and I can tell it probably isn't going to last that much longer. But I do like sort of the length, and I also really like the weight. This old hip length tensor weighs 260 grams. 260 grams. I really like that. Puts it in the realm of the Neo Air X Lite as well for the hip length one. So the project that I have is actually going to be cutting down a Klymit static V2. This is the V2 version. It's got only one valve on it. These are pretty cheap. Maybe you can get them for 60 bucks, 70 bucks. They even sell them at Costco a lot of times. And this one right now with the V2 weighs 433 grams, compared to 260 grams for the Nemo tensor. But I figure if I can cut it down about the same length, I will probably be able to get in the realm of 300 grams, which is, savings of 130 grams. That's a lot. Now, here's the interesting thing about this particular design. As you can see, it's not straight across. The baffles don't go straight across. So I'm going to try to use this to my advantage and actually allow some of these baffles to continue down basically over my spine. And by doing so, I'm actually only going to have to cut right here and iron right here. So instead of cutting all the way across and having all that length available for creating flaws that could leak out, I can try it right here. And I'm going to leave some material in the beginning, so if it doesn't work correctly right here, I'll be able to just move down a little bit and use the natural baffles. So we'll see how it works. I'm going to try the method that other people have tried, just using an iron and getting it really tightly down onto an ironing board, and we'll see how it goes. If it fails, it's not a terribly expensive air mattress. It's not 250 bucks. It's something I can pick up pretty easily. So let's see how it goes. So to continue my project, what I've done is I've overlain my old Nemo on top of the Klymit Static V2, just to calculate the length. And what I'm going to do is go down to the hip end, or the foot end. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow this channel all the way up and use the natural channel. So I'm not going to have to heat seal that at all. And the only thing I'm going to have to heat seal is this little joint here. So I'm going to be making my cut over here, and then I'll leave some excess that I can trim, and I can bring this all the way around, expecting that I will be able to trim it all the way down here. But just in case this first seal right here and the one on the other side doesn't work very well, I'll still have all this material available where I can go from the factory heat seal joint all the way into this heat seal joint. So that's going to be where I'm making my cut. So I'll make my marking where I want to be having the new joint there. Okay, so that's what we should have. And then cutting off all the excess material. Okay, the moment of truth has come. I have some scraps here from my project, the actual good pieces down there, but I want to practice on this. The first seam I'm going to try is actually a longer seam from here to here. So I'm going to use some parchment paper, top and bottom. What I will do on the actual project is go from here to here, but I just want to see if my setting is correct for the iron. But I'm going to be using on I have a Black & Decker iron. It's probably on the cotton setting. It's 5 out of 6, so I'll try that at first. The second test, I'm going to go from here all the way to the end. So I've done the next test. Went well. This seems like it's pretty easy. So I'm going to actually go on the project now. So what I'm going to do is seam seal this little gap here. Then I'll be able to go end to end here, all the way down to the end. Oh, this is just going to be material. I'm not even going to seam seal this. I'm just going to use the factory seal, which goes all the way up here. And then I'll have to put in another seal right here. And if I sort of mess it up a little bit, I will still have some more material here that I will be able to put another seal in if it's not holding well enough based on the first go round. So anyway, that's the project, and let's see how it goes. So I'm finished with the ironing. I made a little mark on top of the parchment paper so I knew sort of what my two targets were. And as you can see, you can actually see where it was sealed. I kept the iron moving back and forth, but even though I did that, you can still see the greatest extent there. Similar sort of mark on the other side. This will be cut off if it holds. And I'm going to let it sit for a little bit, cool down completely, sort of get set, and we'll see how it all goes. And so what I'm going to do next is, after it cools down, I'll blow it up, see if it holds my weight. If it does, I'll leave it up overnight, and I'll report back on what the results are. Well, it's now been 24 hours. I pumped up the air mattress. I put down a solid panel over it to distribute the weight. Weighed it down with about 25-30 pounds and left it on overnight, 24 hours now, and it's all pumped up. I don't see that there's any air loss at all. This is how it all got trimmed, and just kind of trimmed off the excess there. And what have I learned from this? I've learned that this is not nearly as scary as it might seem as far as a project goes. And when you sit and take a look at how these things are manufactured, they're just laid out flat, and then they have a heat sealer that comes down and just does the same thing that you do with an iron. It's probably at a higher temperature though. So I'm very satisfied with it. I weighed this in the beginning, but I'll put down in the comments here what it started out at and what the weight is now. I'm going to have to deflate it and roll it up and put it on my food scale. But if you want to take down some of your weight for a backpacking trip, I'd recommend this. And I actually like kind of this design because this is about where my knees will hit if I'm lying on my side. And so it kind of works out well, and I don't necessarily need it, you know, off on the sides there. So anyway, you ought to give it a try too.